How's it going, guys? Mutant XP on the mic. Welcome to another edition of the Mutant XPerience podcast. With me tonight, my very special guest, Cookye, from originally from New York, but now residing in California. Nationally renowned Elena specialist. And so, how's it going, Cookye?
We're doing good tonight. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored. Thank you very much.
Oh, the honor's all mine. So, for those of you who are just tuning in and are new to the Mutant XPerience podcast, the Mutant XPerience podcast is the only podcast dedicated to covering the Third Strike scene. What I like to do is I like to give an opportunity for Third Strike players to showcase themselves and promote themselves, their scenes, and their events. And so tonight I'm really excited about tonight's show. You know, I've always wanted to sit down and get to know Cookye and, you know, figure out, you know, what makes Cookye tick in terms of his Elena and his Chun-Li. You know, sometimes you use Chun-Li still, but anyway, we'll get to that. So yeah, and obviously we're gonna get your thoughts on 30th anniversary eventually, and you know, but we'll get to that at the end of the show. But before we get to that, you know, let's talk a little bit about, you know, your origins in terms of your origin story, Cookye. So you're originally from New York, right? Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm born and raised in the Bronx,
All right.
specifically Parkchester, which is
Mm-hmm.
the Upper Bronx on the 6 train line. Lived there my whole life, and didn't leave from New York to California until 2009.
Okay. Wow. So how did you get into video games? You know.
I didn't start out in fighting games. I didn't start out in that at all. I started many years ago on the Atari 2600 with pole position. Literally. Well, my mom's ex-husband Rick was into video games, and my mom wasn't, so she passed that stuff down to me. So I started out with pole position, the racing car game on the Atari 2600, and then I didn't really get a foothold until the NES came about, and I started playing this puzzle game called The Adventures of Lolo. I started out as a huge puzzle gamer, from Pac-Man to Chips Challenge on a computer back in the days on Windows 3.1. But The Adventures of Lolo, which would be the precursor to Kirby's Dream Land years later, I started out with that series, and everything I knew about puzzle games and life and just in general came from how to strategize from that puzzle game.
Do you still have that Atari?
Yes, I still have the Atari. It's back home. It's back home in the Bronx for safekeeping. I didn't even take it to California, along with the NES and the Lolo games.
Did you have any siblings or anything, or?
No, I'm the only child. It's just me. Yeah.
I kind of felt like an only child because like my older brother and my older sister, they're just so much older than me. It's like almost 20 years difference. So it was kind of growing up as an only child.
So you're the baby then.
Yeah, I was a happy accident. That's what my mom likes to lovingly refer. So okay. I mean, like, what was it like? I mean, you know, I don't know, you know, how many people in the chat are in the chat right now, but you know, I mean, like, what was it like living in Parkchester? Like, it must have been like you grew up in the 80s, right? Like, because you know, I'm a transplant. I'm originally from. I actually did the reverse. I'm actually from Southern California, and I moved to New York. I mean, what was it like? Like, what was the Bronx like in the 80s?
Well, technically, I was born in 1985. The best. I mean,
what was it like? Like, what was the Bronx like in the 80s? Oh, you turned on the stream. It's all right.
Well, yeah, I have in 1985. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I had a double screen there for a minute. I was answering somebody's on the chat. I have to wait to that for a little bit later. But I was born in 1985, so I caught the last remnants of the disco era that desperately tried to survive into the late 80s, which did a good job until new music took over for the 90s, and then things just kind of progressed. Living on the East Coast, you know, everything is fast paced. There's pedestrian traffic that's there that doesn't exist here in California like that. You see a little bit of it in San Francisco, but truly the city that never sleeps is the Empire State, is New York. I went to, you know, a private school for a while growing up. And then I got kicked out of multiple private schools because I had a lot of fights. You know, growing up, I already knew I was different. I already knew that I was gay, you know, and so there's a lot of stigma in the African American community, being a person of color, being gay, being male, you know. So I've always had turbulent history throughout schools and with people for just being, you know, overtly weird. You know, to people, I've always appeared weird. I'm reading comic books. I'm playing video games. I'm trying to become the characters that I'm reading in my books. Because we're talking about at a time where reading books was how you got your imagination. So I used to act out everything that I did, from reading the book and bring it into real life, or pretending I'm the animation character that was on TV. So I've been doing this since I was a kid. And most people didn't get a chance to see that to me until video games. But as a kid in the 80s, my first character that I really imitated like that was Miss Piggy.
You got a Miss Piggy impersonation?
Oh, God, no, what? My voice, you know, my voice ain't what it used to be when I was a kid, because you don't, Adam's apple grow. You know, voice gets deeper when you're really a dude. You know, so you lose all of those operatic soprano octaves anymore. You don't have that stuff no more. But yeah, I started out when I was a kid doing that stuff. Video games came later. So yeah, Miss Piggy was like my first, and then Brittany from Alvin and the Chipmunks of the Chipettes was the second. And then things just kind of grew from there.
But we all kind of did that, right? As kids, we all kind of like, you know, like you saw something on TV, like a cartoon or something, and you just kind of acted it out with your friends, and you're pretty pretend. I mean, that's something we all did, I guess, you know, to a certain extent, right?
Right. It was more prevalent. It's more prevalent for 80s babies to do that sort of thing. But nowadays, you know, you don't see too much of that. And if you do, I guess people are afraid of being labeled as a nut job, you know, which I'm so used to that now. You know, back in those days, people made fun of you anyway, and it made you a stronger person.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, fighting games. Like, how were you introduced to this whole crazy sort of world of fighting games? You know, how did you get into that?
My cousin BT lived in New Jersey, and he had a Super Nintendo, which I got introduced to the Super Nintendo and to Street Fighter II World Warrior at the same time. I was coming over one weekend to spend a couple of days with him. My mom drove from New York to New Jersey, to Hackensack, by the way. To Hackensack, New Jersey is where they were at. And I just couldn't wait to basically play another edition of my Lolo game, my puzzle game. But that night, they wouldn't hook up the Nintendo. And in fact, they was hooking up the Super Nintendo, which I didn't even know existed. So when he put that on, he had two controllers. And he was like, I want you to play this game with me. And it was Street Fighter 2.
Wow.
Right. So I basically came maybe a couple of months after the fact that the game was in the arcade, and didn't even know that it was in an arcade, because I was first introduced when it was released on Super Nintendo. And right then and there, I already gravitated to the female character. You know, he had picked her for me. I couldn't remember her name. And all BT told me was, just press the kick button many times and she'll do a special move. Just keep pressing it really fast.
Dude,
she'll do a special move.
That shit still works now.
It still works to this day. And so back then, I called her the yap, yap, yap girl, because all she said was yap, 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 yap. I'm like, I can't remember it. So I'm like, you know, so every time I went to New Jersey, which was my only way to get to play Street Fighter 2, I'm like, pick the yap, yap, yap girl for me. I don't know how to pick her. So, and that's what I did, until one day I finally was going to an arcade in my neighborhood and saw the machine. And I was like, the yap, yap girl is in the machine. You know, And that's what happened. And from there, I finally was able to say, "Oh, her name is Chun-Li."
Oh, okay. Did you? That's really interesting because like that means that it was the console that introduced you, that made you want to go play out in the arcades. Almost like it was almost like revert. Like some people think it's always the inverse, but you were introduced to Street Fighter through the console. That's pretty interesting.
Well, Mom, I had not anymore, but I had a very controlling mother. She was very protective of me going outside. So my outlet to the outside world was cartoons and the consoles that were here that I had. Yeah. And when my cousin BT introduced me to Super Nintendo, at the same time I was introduced to Street Fighter 2 and the Yap 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 girl at the time, that was it. That I have found my life then. And then when BT told me there were arcades in my neighborhood, and I started going to pizza shops and sub sandwich places, and the Street Fighter 2 machine was there alongside Mortal Kombat 2 and a bunch of other machines, that's when things really kicked off for me, because I was doing everything I could to get my hands on a quarter. I was asking strangers in the street.
Oh no, we all were doing that. Well, I don't know. I was. I mean, I was like,
yeah, man, it was nuts.
It's funny because in SoCal, right? Like it's just crazy, right? Like to think what the FGC was like when you were a kid. Like where would the machines be? And then right? They'd be in like pizza shops. Like of course, I don't know that because I'm not from here. Like I grew up in SoCal. So the cabs in my area, they were either in arcades or they were in did you have them in laundromats?
We had them everywhere you could fucking think of. Yeah. We had them, we had them in laundromats. We had them in video stores. Pizza shops were very famous for having them. But we have a sub sandwich place on the East Coast that's not here. It's called Blimpies. In fact, actually, I'm lying. We had two. One was in Fremont in an obscure Walmart that's no longer around. And the next Blimpies that still exists just happens to be in Sacramento. Don't ask me why. But the Blimpies sub-sandwich shops, which are like the Togos of the East Coast, were known for having 4, 5, sometimes 6 arcade machines. And you knew either a Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat 2, preferably both, was going to be there.
Yeah, I remember. They were kind of everywhere here, too. Wow. It's funny, too, because, like, I'm on every other Tuesday. I run these things called Turbo Tuesday, and it's basically hyper fighting. And I'm running an online one on PS4, so hopefully you're welcome to enter if you're able to join around that time.
For sure.
But yeah, I was just for some reason like 30th anniversary is like it just came at like a right time, right? Like I bet you like in the month. I don't know.
Hold on, I think you went out for a second.
Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Okay, right. Now you came back for a second.
Okay. But I was thinking like even before 30th dropped, I was already starting to get that nostalgia, Like, man, I remember back. Like, you know what I mean? Like even before 30th dropped, you already started kind of thinking about the old stuff. I guess it started with that CF documentary, right? I don't know if you saw that CF documentary.
I did. I saw the CF documentary. I feel that there's so many people that should have been included that were not included, that added so much richness and robust culture to that location that just were not there. I wanted to be a part of it. There's some things I just wanted to, just be there, that were introduce angles that most tournament players would not have introduced. Most people really talk about what it is like to have the emotions attached to playing the video game and how they went in to be a competitive player. But nobody really talks about what it means to be an otaku, coming from the otaku's perspective or the performing arts perspective, and what it means to be in the gym every day because you really want to become like the character that's in the game in real life, or the cosplay that goes along with it. or what it means to save all your allowance money to buy the expensive manga. You know, online buying at the time wasn't that was not as big as it was back then. So you had to go through several mail order handlers to get your hands on a import soundtrack from Japan, or either you traveled there to get it. Those angles were never explored.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were never talked about like that. I wish there was just more dimensions is what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but like there were a lot of people went to CF for a lot of different reasons. You know? It wasn't just, oh, I'm gonna be nice at Street Fighter. And, you know, eventually I'll enter tournaments and then I'll, you know, be this really famous fighter, you know? Like, you know, a lot of people went there for different reasons, you know what I mean? Whether it's, you know, whether it's those group of old, you know, Chinese guys that always played Puzzle Fighter, you know, at CF, or, you know, just random people, you know, just kind of playing shooting games and stuff. I mean, people went to these arcades for different reasons. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, we had a multitude of multiverse caricatures, I would say, going there. One thing for sure, CF was the home to many tournament elite, not only in fighting games, but in the rhythm and music games, and the puzzle games. In every arena, there was somebody who was elite in that particular genre that just happened to be there.
So how'd you hear about CF? I mean, like.
So I grew up. I hope you don't mind me giving you the long answer.
No. Go ahead. I want to hear the long answer.
So I grew up with a group of friends in the Bronx. One of my friends that lived across the street from me, in the apartment complex of Parkchester, his name is Asambe Briggs. Shout out to Asambe. He was going to 2 arcades, but I never knew the second arcade. The first one was Blimpie's, which was our local sub sandwich shop around the way that had about 6 machines, and everybody in like the Parkchester region, and between that, St. Lawrence and Morrisville, Morrison Soundview Avenues, was going there to play X-Men versus Street Fighter, Children of the Atom, Mortal Kombat 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, MK3, all the stuff that was hot back in the days. That Blimpie's had it. That's where the Bronx people train. But then one day, one of our group members, you know, who he was more like a frenemy to all of us. I'm going to keep his name secret for now. But he ended up punching the owner in the face of Blimpie's, and he took out the machines. And from there, Asambe, my neighbor, is the one who introduced me to CF, because that's where he was going as a backup. He was going to Blimpie's first, but was going to CF second. And he showed it to me. That would be like the first time I really explored Chinatown. And not only did I discover CF that day, I discovered another world that everyone from CF was going to, another place called Penguin Village on Elizabeth Street. That's where people was buying their anime for $5 on a VHS tape, hoping that the bootleg could actually play the anime and it wasn't a fucked up tape. And across the street, J&L, the video game store, which catered to nothing but imports from Japan, China, Europe, and America. That was like the place to go to get all your shit from. You know, so between the video games, the anime, Penguin Village, and CF, that was like the pinnacle of the fandom back then.
Wow.
So if you went down to Chinatown, you was going to one of those places or all 3 to 4.
Yeah. I mean, that must have been just so eye-opening. Just like, and you wouldn't. And it's funny because like, wait, hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, sorry. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, because like, it's funny because like you had, like you were saying, right? Like it's, you know, obviously, you know, you live in the Bronx, and then we know where Chinatown is, and it's, you know. It's really not that far, but for a kid it is, right? You know, it's.
Well,
I mean, and what reason did you have to go down there, right?
What reason? What?
Like before obviously your friend introduced you to CF. Like what reason would you have to go down there? I guess as a kid, right?
Well, I always wanted to explore Manhattan. I didn't get a chance to explore Manhattan until later on because, you know, my mom was very controlling of what I was doing after school. For a long time, I was on one of those yellow cheese buses coming home from school. And once I got off the bus, when it dropped me off in front of my house, I was actually sneaking. I would wait till the bus to leave, and instead of going into my apartment, I would run across the street, go several blocks down to Blimpie's to the arcade and play there for a couple of hours and then go back home.
Oh, yeah.
It honestly wasn't until I got into junior high school that I started exploring Manhattan like that and really, really enjoying my life in the city. Like, and I mean, I was sneaking out all times of night. And from my mom perspective, this is where things got a little bit shady. She thought because I'm a part of the LGBT community, I was going to a place known as the Village, which would be considered, the Castro of New York. But instead, I was actually at the video game arcade in Chinatown, something so far off and so unrelated to the LGBT community.
Yeah. Like my dad was like that too. Like, he swore I thought I was like participating in like gang activity, or I was doing drugs, or into some nonsense. But I was really at the bodega near the library that had the one that had the arcade cabs. So pretty funny. How old were you when you first started going to CF? About?
Oh dear. I'm 33 now, so I must have been about 15.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, I was 15. Yeah. 14, 15 for sure. Because I was in junior high school. I was going to a place called Columbus Academy, which was off of like 66th Street in like Midtown Manhattan. So it took no time to walk across Midtown to get myself to the nearest 6 train and just ride the 6 train all the way down to Canal Street, or walk down to 42nd Street in Grand Central, take the 4 and take it all the way down to Brooklyn Bridge, and then walk the back way into CF, into Chinatown.
So when did you start, when did you start getting serious in terms of cosplaying? How did this run parallel to like your time at the arcade? Was it something you did like separately, or how did that kind of?
Okay, so there's 2 parts to this. The first part is the skills aspect, and then the aesthetics, which is the costumes, came later. So I didn't have money for costumes back then. But I did have resources to go get the martial arts skills. So my mom had put me in Taekwondo since I was 11. And I didn't change up my martial art to Kung Fu until 2002. And so between the martial arts, and then I was sneaking to go to this free gymnastics class. I was in the McBurney Chelsea of YMCA, which was like along 8th Avenue between going down to 14th Street and 16th. I was going there. I was getting the acrobatic talent from a guy named Coach Paul, who was Korean, and he was doing free lessons. So I learned a lot from him, and then was doing the martial arts that my mom was putting me in on top of that. So I was already imitating the characters from the jump, but didn't get ready to manifest the actual look until years later, until I had a job and I could pay for the outfits or have a friend help me make them. Because I was shelling out serious money to have a seamstress and a tailor construct the outfits made for my body so I can pull off the look the best way that I could.
Yeah. So when you started, kind of becoming, more and more into the cosplaying, I'm just going to put it out there. Like when you went to CF, cause you're going to CF and the first time, and then you're also at the same time, you're kind of developing this passion and this love for cosplaying. And so obviously you're going to bring that part of you to CF, right?
Yes.
Because, how did that how was that experience like? terms of just how people reacted.
So at CF, I wasn't really wearing cosplays at CF. At CF, people knew me as the person who was wearing the Chinese clothing, because a lot of my main garments are Chinese, Mandarin collars, frog buttons at the neck, very similar to the 1920 Shanghai mistress, opium bed, long dragon pipe. I really pictured myself as a mix between the Eartha Kitt and the Anime Wong of the video gaming fandom. I wanted to put on a show, a scene, and entertainment that is different from others. When people knew that they saw me, they knew that, oh, this is the person that wears the dragon clothing or the dragon phoenix clothing. And so I always wore Chinese garments, 95% of the time to CF. And anyone, if you was to ever find anybody today who remembers me, they would tell you the same thing. And then when you add on top of it that I was singing and imitating the characters live while I was playing the game, it would start off as people that didn't know me would snicker and laugh. But then when they see that I'm actually a tournament player and I'm functioning in tandem with the character and winning, then it became a different story. I remember Chris G one time confronted me long ago. This is before he became what he became, the great Marvel god that he is right now. And Chris G was like, he just couldn't understand, why do you do that? We was playing CVS 2, and it used to annoy him. This is before he got really good at CVS 2. So I used to beat him a lot in that. And then one day he started beating me in the game. So he just kind of eclipsed me. We still play every now and again, and I could still hold my own. And so the matches can go either way between him and I. But he would be like one of the few that would approach me about, playing the game and being artistic like that. Shouting out the moves, singing the song, the background music and everything.
Now, is that why you were specifically drawn to obviously you play a lot of other fighting games, but obviously one of your favorite games, a game that you travel for and a game that you're known for, is Third Strike. Like, was that the appeal for Third Strike, the fact that the characters were just so, or was that something else that drew you to the game?
Well, my appeal for just to say in fighting games in general came from being spiritually connected to the characters that I was playing with. There are very few male characters that I play. I can count them. They're like very few, because the majority of the characters I choose are female. I choose to live my life through that persona. And so because I'm a character loyalist, if I don't have a spiritual connection with the character, then I most likely won't be playing with her or him or playing the game at all. I need to have a reason why this is moving me in a particular way. How is this manifesting in real time in my real life? And what lessons am I taking from the character's backstory and applying them to my real life? Because that's where a lot of the Japanese put a lot of hidden innuendos in their work. They use this stuff as entertainment, but at the same time, it's used as a source of inspiration to draw from it on how can you better yourself as a person by applying the positive aspects of those characters from the digital into the reality.
Like I'm the complete opposite of you. Like, I don't know anyone. Like, I've been playing 3S longer than you have, and and I don't know anything about anybody's story, characters. I'm like the complete opposite spectrum. I just, for some reason, I just never was sort of into that until sort of later on when you feel like there's nothing else to get for the game.
Hey, no judgment. Not everybody is. There's some people that just play the game because it's cool and they play it real well. But if you ask them about the character or their birthday or who was the voice actor for the character, they won't even be able to tell you. And it's fine. Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. So let's talk more specifically about Third Strike before we go back on our break. So, Elena, the character,
Okay.
like, when did you first try her out? Well, first of all, when did you first try out Third Strike? How was that like? Who did you use? Who did you choose? Probably Chun, but I don't know, I'm just guessing.
Well, actually, it was before then.
Oh, okay.
You know, as Street Fighter is known for, they're known for doing their series in parts of 3s and 4s.
Uh-huh.
You know, Street Fighter 2, you know, started out with World Warrior Hyper Champion, then Super 2, then Super 2 Turbo, and then went into 3. I started 3 in 1996, 97 when it first came out, and I was extremely hurt that Chun-Li wasn't in the game. I was I was flabbergasted, I was dumbfounded, I was upset, I was confused. And I started using what everyone else was using. The token girl at the time was Ibuki. You know, this ninja bitch had a fucking infinite in New Gen. And, you know, everyone was playing with her, but I wanted something a little different. I still play with Ibuki. Not everybody knows that. But because I pick her once every 1,000 years.
I've never seen you use Ibuki.
Right, that's not like once every 1,000 years. And at the time, I chose Elena. Well, everybody was running Ibuki, and I kind of put Ibuki on the back burner for me, but didn't stop playing with her. I said, you know what? This is the first African or African-American, African-esque female in a Street Fighter game, let alone a fighting game in general, to be really recognizable. The other was Tanya from Mortal Kombat 4, but that's another story. And so when I saw her, I said, okay, this woman is extremely slow. At the time, no, she was. She only had 3 moves. She had Rhino Horn, she had the backflip, which is Mullet Smosh, and then she had the uppercut kick, which is Spinning Lathe. You know, which they changed the name to Scratch Wheel later, but I don't know why. So with that being said, she was extremely easy to parry because she was so slow in the launch of her moves and so slow when the move is being executed. So you really had to learn how to parry. That's how I learned how to parry, was from New Generation. New Generation taught me how to be a master parrier with her in that game because there was no other way to win matches with this bitch, man. Let me tell you. You know, the pokes were slow. She was slow. Everything was slow. Everybody could beat the shit out this bitch. Her pussy was free. Let me tell you. Her pussy was free all throughout New Generation. She did not get better until Second Impact. Second Impact is when they gave her linking EX moves.
Yeah. And so did you and so but what happened in New Gen? Did you just not play it, or did you main Elena, or what is
I think somebody was asking a question that wasn't the timing window smaller in New Generation. Yes, it was. In fact, all her moves you had to parry almost at the last second. Especially the backflip super, you had to parry it extremely slow. There was like 1.5 to 2 second parry between the second hit of the backflip. Yeah, it was Rhino Horn, same thing, and Spinning Lathe. The 3-hitter for that one was like 1, 2, 3 instead of 1, 2, 3 in Third Strike. But anyway, back to what you were saying. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
Well, I was just wondering, like, did you just kind of did you play, like, did you play New Gen, or were you like, this game isn't that great, I'm just gonna keep playing Alpha 3? Or okay,
I stuck with that game, and I followed this woman from New Generation, you know, all the way to third. By the time Third Strike happened, I was doing stuff that people didn't think would happen. And then I even had like a small mentor by the time Third Strike happened. I had a friend named Aristotle, you know, back at CF.
Aristotle
Santos. He's an Elena player, and he's the one that taught me the linking 3 EX moves from EX Spin Scythe to EX Rhino Horn to EX Spinning Lathe. She's the only character in the game that can link 3 EXs back to back like that.
You know, shout outs to Anti-Shoto, aka Aristotle. He still plays Third Strike, but he kind of switched over to Necro though. So.
Oh yeah, he taught me quite. In fact, he even taught me the same EX linking attacks And Second Impact, I was watching him for hours. He was like, "Oh yeah, you could do this, you could do that," and then from there, I just developed my own play style. I've been using some of the secrets he passed down to me since Second Impact in 1998.
Well, I didn't know you I didn't know you and Aristotle were like that.
Okay. Oh yeah, everybody ran through CF. Everybody.
Because like I told you, I have like the opposite experience, right? I mean, I moved to New York, in 2007, and so like I'm coming in as like an outsider. Obviously, the first thing I wanted to do, one of the first things I wanted to do was go to CF, and I think I've told this story before, but the first player I ever met in CF was Helgen X.
Oh, you know Helgen X? You know Helgen X?
Yeah, of course.
I visit his place every time I visit home down there on West 4th and shit. Down there in St. Mark's. My mistake. St. Mark's.
He was one of the few guys that kind of like showed me like the real New York. You know what I mean?
What was left of it after 9/11?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, so I think that was a good time to take a break. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about Cookye's philosophy with Elena. And the things that she, the things that he, that he looks for in terms of, using the character. And so, when we come back, we'll get into that. I also wanted to get maybe Cookye's thoughts on 30th anniversary later on in the show. So once again, guys, thanks for watching the Mutant XPerience podcast. Stay tuned for more, and we'll be back after a quick 2 to 3 minute break.
Cool.
All right, guys, welcome back to more Mutant XPerience podcasts. Once again, I'm here tonight with my very special guest, Cookye, very good Elena player, residing now in California, but born and raised in New York. And so, when we left off in the last segment, we were talking about Elena, and so you did play New Gen. How do you feel like? How would you describe her evolution as a character from from New Gen to Third Strike? I mean, clearly she got better, maybe, but can you be in terms of specifics? How do you think? What do you think is how would you best describe her evolution or devolution?
Okay, so there are two parts to this. To describe the evolution of her character would be talking about everybody as a whole. The first game was very cut and dry. It focused on the art of self-defense, which was the parrying technique in New Gen. Second Impact focused more on EX moves. So they gave you EX specials and how you can expand on your combo set and react after parrying. And then Third Strike focused on how you can red parry in the middle of blocking someone else's uncontested hits. You can break it by force red parrying forward if you knew the next frame of the attack on time. Now, with Elena specifically, she went from being extremely slow in New Gen to picking up speed in Second Impact, and her moves becoming a little bit more harder to detect, while giving her some really nifty EX specials, to her being the full perfected epsilon of what she is in Third Strike by giving her a brand new move known as Link's Tail, which is a Thomas Flare in male gymnastics. Because what she's doing is that's a male move. That's not even a female move in real life. A Thomas Flare, where she does the break dance, that is her Link's Tail move, and giving her an EX version of that as well. So they made her a lot faster. They made it so that she is extremely confusing when you know how to do her mix-ups.
It's funny because, when I went to Japan in 2017, I played a few Elena players, and, I think maybe it's just the overall strategy or their approach to the game in general. But a lot of the players, they play a very patient Elena, which almost sounds oxymoronic, right? Because of the way she's designed, it almost looks like she's a character. She almost looks like she's built to be a rushdown character. She wants to flash you and distract you with things. But it's funny because the Elena players that were winning, they were the really patient ones. They were the ones that were really good at reacting and red pairing at every opportunity. And stuff like that. And it was interesting to see that. They don't whiff that many moves. They just build meter and so forth and so on. So yeah, that was it was pretty eye opening seeing Elena players in Japan. So what's your sort of personal philosophy to playing her in Third Strike?
To utilize every tool in her arsenal. I have created setups and traps, such as throwing out moves blindly on purpose, but you have to know the spacing. Like I'm sure people have seen when I've had like a super bar at the bottom of the screen, and the person's on one end of the screen, but maybe I'm mid-length or a little bit further, and I've done either light to medium rhino horn, and I did it on purpose to purposefully miss, so that they can react upon her landing, which when the frames of their move come out, she has enough time to react with her super, and which the super will counter their reaction. So I've done stuff like that. I've done it with every single move. I've done like the mullet smash backflip and missed on purpose so that either a Shoto can shoryuken her when they think they had the opportunity. And they did have the opportunity. It's just that I also had the opportunity to do something at the same time as you. So I created all these open window opportunities for you to do something so I can counter it. And I've done that in addition to mastering her normals. Her normals are so good in Third Strike, and they give her some of the highest stun value of any character in the game, because a lot of her moves hit twice. So if you don't know the parry twice, then you're gonna get hit automatically by the second hit.
Yeah. And that character hurts. Like she deals some serious damage and stun. You know, I don't know. Was Elena like that in New Gen? Like
she was like that, but she wasn't able to link it so fluidly.
Yeah,
she became fluid linking of all of that stuff in Third Strike. There is even a combo that's new. There's a couple new combos that you have in New Strike, which is heavy punch to heavy kick, which is, she could, connect heavies and two mediums together where some characters can't. So a heavy to a heavy punch to heavy kick. And that's the highest stun combo she has in her arsenal. Then she has double jump in attacks where she can hit you twice jumping in. She always had the heavy kick, which is the over arc flip, which hits you twice, which people know about. And then people know about the jump in light punch to medium kick, which you could parry that. But then they gave her, and this was new to specific to Third Strike, the medium punch to the heavy punch, which extends her leg out. Not everybody knows the parry timing to that. So you can mix up her jump-ins 3 different ways. And she has a new on the ground combo, which you can hit medium kick to heavy punch. And then she'll hit mid to hit high, which I don't use that combo too much often, but it is good against Hugo players, especially if they're trying to grab her, because that combo pushes her away on purpose.
Yeah, I definitely think, because they gave Elena some really some really good tools. And and it's like but she's not one of those characters where I can get by with just one of those tools or 2 of those tools. I feel like to really excel with her, like you said, right, like all the tools have to be on deck. You know what I mean? Like at every situation, when the situation arises, they got to be Johnny on the spot with whatever Elena can do to address that situation.
It's gotten to a point now where I don't have to think anymore in certain situations. The only thinking that comes into play is when I'm at tournaments and I know that I'm playing against some of the highest epsilons of people, because no longer do people have to think about how to play with the character, because you've been playing the game so long, you don't have to think. It's more about the strategy that you're going to put in motion, because you don't know how they're going to execute their strategy, so you're trying to counter theirs. That's the only thinking that comes into play. And it really just comes down to, at that moment, who was able to execute theirs on the fly and a bit better than the other.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, if you had mentioned off the podcast that you had did a sort of Elena tutorial for 30th anniversary or something, or
yeah, it was just a couple of days ago. I did it on Twitch. I believe I did it on Twitch.
Oh, and feel free to type the link to your Twitch channel on the chat.
So I'll do it in 1 second.
Yeah.
I did it on Twitch, and it was basically about a good 35 minutes of me going through her entire moveset, talking about what this does, why is this important, why is it not. I kind of kept to the point, because I noticed some people start losing interest when you start going into the backstory of the character and the mythology. I like doing that. I'm old school. I'm a little old school, so I speak the old language. I speak the language of comic books and mythology. So for you to really get immersed with playing with your character, you want to become them. You want to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And then at the same time, give purpose to why you're playing with the character, while also understanding the meaning of why they're executing what they're executing. So I kind of, in this tutorial, kind of cut all that out and just kind of went straight into the strategy to talk about her, to kind of keep the interest of the people. So, because when people's attention span move like this, and if you don't catch them within like a couple of seconds, they'll just turn to another channel. So I kept it kind of politically correct, as they say.
So I was doing some research for this podcast, because that's what any reputable journalist would do, and I found that you actually already have a tutorial video on YouTube, right? Or a video of something.
I did somebody named Roshi Hikari. Roshi Hikari like stole my video that I made like years ago, and I did it on a PS2. I think I did it on PS2 or PS3 when I had like the first beginning capture card by Elgato at the time. It was like 30 frames a second. I was really working that capture card, and you couldn't see my face like you can see now. All you could hear was my voice, and I'm going through the entire tutorial like that. And that tutorial, I went into everything, her backstory, who she is, why, everything. And when I spoke about the move sets, I kind of just went into the move sets. So what most people would just be like, special move 1 and 2, I was like, okay, this is spinning lathe, this is Link's tail, this is rhino horn, this is mullet smosh, this is what it looks like this. And I think, oh yeah, and this is me, I did it with Hugo, right? Get the video. Yeah, I remember. Oh, God.
That PS2 menu.
Yeah, and then somebody took that video and then posted other places claiming it as theirs. I was like, whoever Roshi Hikari's. Yeah.
Really? Wow. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. It was so long ago, it doesn't even matter anymore. I made a new one now where you see my face, so now they can't steal it. So.
That's true. So, like, what advice would you what would you say are like the top 3 things, top 3 pieces of advice you would give to a third strike player that's interested in Elena? Because like you said, right, a lot of us started using our character because we had sort of a genuine interest in the character, but so like in terms of beginning Elena players, because I'm sure there's a lot of them now that 30th is out. But like, what are like the top 3 pieces of advice you would give to people who want to make Elena their primary character in Third Strike?
Focus on the characters that are bad matchups against her, like Yoon. Not everybody knows. People get afraid of the dive kick with Yoon. But back heavy kick launches Elena up. And the dive kick from Yoon or Yang will miss her. And her overhead arc kick, very similar to Makoto's, will then go up around and hit Yoon or Yang as they're landing from the dive kick, or stop the dive kick altogether when timed correctly. That's just one piece of secret I wanted to put out there. But on a serious note, parrying. Learn the parrying for her in the game. Everybody has different parry sequences in the game. And you want to really parry all the Shotos. Learn how to parry all of the Shotos and learn how to parry all of Urien. Because she bleeds heavy against a character like Urien. So that means you have to be aggressive against certain characters and you have to be patient against certain characters. Urien is a character you have to be aggressive with. Parry and react and confuse him, and don't give him a chance to do anything like the temporal thunder projectile or the cold shoulder or anything else. Because once he does the mirror, I usually like to jump into the mirror and parry the mirror once he launches it, so I could get past the mirror to get to him, so I could parry the next set of attacks I feel he's going to do. So, but then secondly, playing the game, being willing to lose matches, because I've lost hundreds and hundreds of matches with her since New Gen. So everything comes naturally with me with her when fighting the other characters, because I've been playing for so long. And Third Strike, this is a game where you're going to have to lose lots of matches to get the feel and the rhythm of every character in the game. And if you're a character loyalist like me, then I don't tier pick. I pick the people that I love. Then that meant I had to learn how to use her against everybody in the game, regardless of whether it's a bad or good matchup. That's just what it is. She touched me that deeply. There are very few female characters in games that have touched me that deeply. She's one of them, alongside Katana and Psylocke.
Well, what is it about Elena's story, that sort of...
That she had the ability to make friends with everybody, including Akuma. I think what really attracted me to her was that the Japanese really put thought and time and respect into the African culture.
Mm.
For once, there was a character that didn't look like some stereotypical cartoon, character of an African or African American that's angry with big lips, that's ghetto, that's angry all the time. Not only did they do research on Kenya, because Kenya was once a colony of the British Republic, they really put a lot of that in her, that she's studying abroad, in France, and then goes to England. They really give her education. I really did some deep backstory with her. And then she became the closest of friends with Makoto and Ibuki. They really made her a friendship character, and that everything to her is musical. She functions based upon the music and the rhythm of the other opponent. And I was able to feed off of that and bring that into not only that game, but I was already doing it with other games beforehand, but I was able to enhance that with using her. Sure.
Yeah, like, cause I was like last night I was looking through the 30th anniversary museum for the first time. And like that got me thinking, right? These developers who created these characters. I mean, how far did they go? You know what I mean? Like the person who invented Elena, right? I don't know if you know who invented Elena or who created Elena.
To be honest, that is one of the few voice actors or artists that I do not know. And I usually know all my voice actors for a lot of my characters. Caitlin Zamar did Katana, and Catherine Disher was the voice of Psylocke in Children of the Atom all the way up to Marvel 2. But for Elena, I honestly don't know. But I do know that whoever did the artwork really took their time, and whoever animated her, she has the most frames in the game. She has the most standing animation frames of all the characters in Third Strike. She really does look like she's doing the Brazilian African art of capoeira. It made me second guess the same animator who animated her. Why didn't they hire him for Street Fighter 4? Because she looks like, I don't know, she looked like she's having a seizure in Street Fighter 4. She looks awful in Street Fighter 4. Like, I didn't play her at all. I was hurt. I stuck with Rose. Rose is another staple of mine, but I was like, oh, I can't play with Elena. This is disrespect.
Yeah. Elena looked like she got coked up between Third Strike and
Woo. Well, maybe if we put in perspective, because 4 takes place before 5 and 5 is before 3, maybe this is how she started.
Okay. So this is rehab Elena. Elena, Third Strike Elena is rehab Elena. I like that.
I guess this is after the healing. Yeah, because I don't know, she looked awful.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was gonna ask you like what you thought, what you thought they did with Elena in SF4, but I guess that
I guess she was tournament viable because she was able to use like 2-3 times healing factor in matches. That's how she was winning tournaments. This bitch was winning tournaments from healing. I was like, wow. She was never like that. Wow.
It's funny too, because like you were saying, right? She has the most animations in her stance, and she's always someone who's really active, and then like leave it to Capcom to make her like basically make her play the exact opposite of what she's.
But you know what? I wouldn't even blame Capcom. I blame the art director. That's called somebody whose ego is bigger than reality. And that's my way of attacking Microsoft at the same time, because the first woman to win a tournament, a martial arts tournament ran by men, was B. Orchid in the original Killer Instinct. B. Orchid killed Idol. Katana didn't kill Shao Kahn, and Chun-Li didn't kill Bison. But B. Orchid killed Idol in Killer Instinct. She was the first woman to be successful in the tournament. Years later, when they do the reboot of Killer Instinct, they changed her up so much. She is like unstable. She's on medication. She's taking like anti-seizure medications. She's paranoid, unstable. She has money flying. She's living in an abandoned building trying to hide from Aria, who's the CEO of Ultratech. It was just awful. And she doesn't know who she is on top of it. They just stripped Orchid of who she was.
So, take me to your move to Cali, because like I was saying before, right? Like I did the opposite. I'm from Cali, moved to New York. Like, like how was that like in terms of your in terms of, obviously, you like playing Third Strike, you like playing fighting games. How did you adjust to that? The move.
So, in the beginning, you don't mind if I give you the long answer?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I was friends with this guy named Devin Sewell. He was a high school friend of mine, and I was friends with his father, of course. His father and his girlfriend moved to California before me, and my plan was to stay with somebody that I knew, and I knew Devin's father for like over 15 years. And when I moved out here, I stayed with them for a little while. But when I got here, I guess they thought all the money that I was saving was going to pay for their rent. And when they realized that I was really trying to get myself stable, and I wasn't trying to be a part of their master plan, which I guess was to be a part of their team, they had kicked me out and tried to take everything that I had. And I spent, several months trying to get my stuff back. They almost took everything I had, but with the help of the police, I got about 98% of my stuff back. I managed to get all my games back, everything, like my entire anime museum, like everything I got back. Almost lost my life, like everything that I had. And I was bouncing around from different roommates all throughout 2010. I got so lucky in 2009 because when he had kicked me out the apartment, I was talking to this Chinese guy named Oven. And Ovid and we ended up dating temporarily, and he set me up with his friends in Mountain View. And in 2010, I lived in Mountain View, and I moved about 4 different times throughout the course of 2010, until I moved into my own place. At the end of 2010, I moved into my own place and been in this apartment that you see ever since then. It took me about 3-4 years to get truly economically, socially, everything stable here. I really started from the ground up. I went through a serious crisis. I didn't tell anybody because I always knew how to function in a state of crisis. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, anybody's job to know that I was really being fucked over. I was like, I'm gonna fight this. I'm gonna fight it head on, and this is what I got to do. So I'm gonna do it. The real happiness didn't come until, several years later when I went back to school a second time, because I finished college with a degree already, but I went back to get my nursing assistant license. Mm-hmm. And from that opened up a whole new opportunity, because I was functioning off of $11 and $12 an hour jobs. Mm-hmm. But I was always working in nursing. Even in New York, I was working nursing jobs on the side. So I took those skills and just said, I'm going to go to school, get my license for nursing assistant, mm-hmm. assisting acute for the hospital care work. And hospitals won't pay you nothing less than 30. Mm-hmm. And once I got myself in a hospital, I've been stable ever since. Mm-hmm. So I went through a whole string of hell, bought a bad car that had a bad engine, and I learned about cars when I got here, because we not car people back on the East Coast.
Oh yeah, that was another thing too, right? Did you know how to drive before you moved out there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought a car, and my first convertible I owned outright.
Huh? I'd say no. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I thought you went out for a second. My first car I bought, it needed a timing belt. It had bad gaskets. It needed spark plugs. I didn't even know anything about that stuff. All I knew, it was a Mitsubishi 1999 convertible, and it went down. And see, anything that I buy or anything that I do is anime related. Uh-huh. It's anime related. So I bought the convertible because I'm inspired by Rami Johanna from Advanced VG, from the Variable Geo series. People, y'all could look that up. Variable Geo, the best all-female fighting game ever created for PS, Advanced VG2. So she's the host of the Venus game tournaments and has a convertible. So once I got my convertible, I'm like, yes, I'm like Rami Johanna now from the Johanna group. And that car was just a ticking time bomb. It was literally stopping. It was stopping on 101 during freeway hours. Like, I'd be going 75 miles an hour and that shit just stopped in the middle of freeway. Yeah. Yeah, I can laugh about this stuff now because I'm so far. I'm so far beyond all this now through all the struggle that I've went. But what kept me together was when I met Albert. Albert from Keystone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At Golfland. I was able to experience Golfland for 4 or 5 years before they turned it into laser tag. That was in Milpitas. That was great.
I've only been there once. I've only been there once. It was for a big dirt strike tournament, but it was great. Sunnyvale.
Oh yeah. The Milpitas Golfland one was the one I was going to the most because it had all of that.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into playing Third Strike over there.
I kind of just walked up one day and I had a long line of people trying to take me off the machine. That's kind of what happened. I was playing and then 2-3 people were playing and it was like was one person, I believe his name is Muhammad. Just, who are you? Are you from here? I've never seen you before. That's what they would say. It's like, we've never seen you before. Who are you? So I told them who I was and where I came from. It's like, what? It was like, did you fly here? I'm like, no, I drove across the country, which is literally what I did. I drove across the country. And from there, things just kind of exploded because not only did they learn that I played Third Strike, but then they found out I played CVS too. So every game I touched, they followed me, and they followed me all the way up to when I played SNK versus Capcom Chaos, and that's when it got sketchy because people didn't like that game like that. So.
It's funny. I don't know. It's just I always I remember before Chaos came out, right? Like almost I don't think anyone thought it was gonna be a bad game. Right, like I felt like everyone, at least in like my neighborhood, or my circle of friends, like everyone was like, "Dude, this game's gonna be sick." Like, there's no way this game's not gonna be good, right? Street Fighter characters in a KOF series, and then I don't know what happened.
Well, it was the SNK sprites that kind of turned it off for people. But like I said, I'm a character loyalist, so I only picked up the game because Shiki was in it. Shiki is my favorite Samurai Spirits character. And unfortunately, she only shows up in the 64 series of the Samurai Spirits storyline. Very underappreciated storyline.
She's the one with the bird, right?
No, that's Nakaruru.
Oh.
Who's Siri?
Who's Siri? Siri's who's Siri? Who's no, I just wanted to look it up real quick.
The only character that sounds familiar to what you're saying is Saya. And Saya is from Warriors Rage 2, which was only released for PlayStation.
Yeah.
Which actually was the last SNK game to be released for PlayStation before it was bought out by Playmore. But I even went to Southtown Arcade for a while until they closed down. Man, that was a good arcade to go to in San Fran. That little hole in the wall arcade reminded me of CF, and I was bothered by it when that shit got shut down too.
Yeah, I never been to Southtown. What was that arcade like?
It was right underneath a bridge almost. On a hill in San Francisco, and it was like a tunnel. As soon as you walk in the place, it was just one way in and one way out, technically. It was like one of those tunnel venues. You go in and it's just arcades lined up along the left side and the right side of the wall.
Oh, okay.
And it was good because they had every viable tournament game there, including imports that I play that very few people play, like Rumblefish 2. I was like stoked that they had Rumblefish 2. Like, I played that game all day until people started asking me how to play that game.
Well, speaking of Rumblefish 2, I just wanted to give a huge shout outs to Beast, DJ Beast. Okay. He's running another Dusty Knuckle Saloon Part 3 on June 30th. And Beast is going to be running tournaments for Second Impact, Samurai Spirits 2, and Rumblefish 2. So if you're in the Brooklyn area, definitely come out June 30th for Dusty Knuckle Saloon Part 3. All right. So I guess this is a good time to take our second and final break. But when we come back, obviously, Cookie, it's been about a couple weeks since 30th anniversary drop, and I definitely want to get your thoughts on the game. And
Oh yes, of course.
and what you've been doing and so forth and so on. But before that, we're gonna go ahead and take our second and final break. And so, but before we take our break, I just wanted to go ahead and let everyone know about some other events that are going on at IFM in the near future. So on June 15th, which is next Friday, we're gonna have our final Injustice 2 ranking battle. Shout outs to all the Injustice players for coming out and supporting IFM. And so the final Ranbat will be on next Friday. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be hosting Turbo Tuesday. I'm going to be hosting a offline hyper fighting tournament followed by an online hyper fighting tournament run on PS4. The challenge brackets are up, and definitely check that out. DOA night, presented by Two Stupid Gamers. They're trying to make Wednesdays at IFM DOA night. The first DOA night was last night, and it was pretty good, pretty good. Tekken 7 monthly. Our next one is on June 16th. Shout outs to Helst for organizing these monthlies and really injecting some new life into the Tekken scene. As we mentioned before, Dusty Knuckles Alune, Volume 3. Obviously, this is hosted by Beast. It'll be streamed by Beast, live from IFM. And in addition to Second Impact, which makes its third straight appearance, we're going to run tournaments for Samurai Showdown 2 and Rumblefish 2. Saturday, July 14th, we're going to, in lieu of a Tekken monthly, there's going to be a Tekken team tournament. And of course, July 21st to 22nd, Saturday and Sunday, live at IFM, random select weekend, Arcade Perfect Third Strike, all weekend long. Definitely consider coming out. And so, once again, guys, we're going to take our second and final break. And when we come back, more Mutant XPerience podcasts.
Awesome.
Welcome back, guys. We are back with more Mutant XPerience podcasts. Tonight, I'm here with my special guest, Cookye, California Third Strike Elena player, originally born and raised in New York. So, Cookye, we had just gotten done talking about, your your experience with the Cali FGC. What would you say is like the differences between the two? Like the two scenes. I mean, are there a lot of differences? Even? I mean, like
the differences is more sociable. When I was at Milpitas Arcade and various other arcades, there was one small arcade that used to be in the Matreon, no longer there. Not everybody is as friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I
in California or in
just in California, I noticed it, but it depends where you go.
Yeah.
Because I was going to the local arcade at San Jose State University when the arcade was there, and all they had was nothing but the classic machines, and everybody was friendly there. Everyone was very, open-minded and, willing to talk about their experiences and what strategies they're using in the game, and they were very friendly. Some other spots not as friendly, especially during tournament times for like Street Fighter 4. You start talking to people and they'll look at you like you're crazy. Now in New York, New York people are a bit more, straightforward when it comes down to them talking. And so I felt like people were more approachable because people keep it real more in New York. California, you don't really know who is kind of faking you out, as they say, phony. Here you don't know who's real, who's kind of not real. You have to kind of feel out their spirit to understand what kind of character you're dealing with. Not everybody is so straightforward, but I just noticed that in the social scene while in the arcades here. Another big difference is that most people in New York play with everybody. They know how to play with everybody in the game. Versus I've noticed here on the West Coast, people will pick a character and they'll counter pick. They do more counter picking over here. I noticed. It's not everybody, but if they see that you picked this particular character, or they'll wait for you to select your character and then pick their character based upon what you selected. And it's not a bad thing. I never took offense to it because I've always felt to learn the game, you're going to learn everybody anyway. You have to learn to match up with everybody. So it doesn't matter who they pick. I'm already going to know what to do. Definitely. Or how I'm going to go about it.
So let's fast forward to before we talk about 30th, right? So you were already in Cali, if I got my timeline straight. You were already in Cali when OE dropped, Online Edition.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on Online Edition when it dropped?
When you say for Street Fighter 3?
Yeah, Third Strike Online Edition.
Wow. The net code needed some work. I felt the same way about Online Edition that I felt about the remake of Darkstalkers Vampire Savior series. Just the online needed to be reworked. But you see, I'm sorry. The experience of fighting games will never be the same unless you're playing it head to head, no matter what. Unless we change the entire internet infrastructure to like where it is in Japan, the whole infrastructure would have to be changed for things to work correctly. Now, people talk about the programming or the video game or people's internet connection. There's so many variables in it. Yes, the game could have been reworked a little bit in the netcode department, but then you're also going up against other people's internet. Not everybody has $85 to spend on premium internet.
Yeah.
So they're paying for that $15, $20 internet.
Yep.
So what our infrastructure is made to do is to compensate for somebody else's slower connection. So here I am coming in a match with premium internet, It's going to take some of my premium activity and push it over to the other person's cheap internet and try to even shit out. And it just doesn't work. And that's why you have a lot of laggy. I've lost a lot of matches to things that shouldn't be. Shoryukens that happened before they hit the ground. You know, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at all. I just know the source of the problem. And because I accept the source of the issue, I just know that I'll just play it on a different platform. Like right now, online needs work on 30th edition a little bit more, but is a lot better than that Third Strike Online version. I know that right now.
Oh, okay. So you must be somewhat pleased with 30th anniversary, I guess.
I'm pleased because I'm from the original generation that watched these games get released in their prime. I watched them get released when they were announced and then put in the arcades with the marquee, you know, and then waited for them to come home for release. So when you've watched that stuff get released and you lived through it, it's a different experience. For the new generation, they're used to all the rehashes and extra versions and all these characters that had nothing to do with the original release. You know, like, how come DJ's not there? Where's Ingrid? Where's Fei Long? You know, I'm reading different complaints about the game, but they don't understand when this game was dropped in arcades back in like 96, 97, it was released like this. This is the original arcade ROM. This is the original created release of it. It didn't have all those extra people, you know, so we're not getting double upper. We're not getting double upper eclipse to the moon past the spaceship on the Orion belt, you know, all these crazy names that Capcom likes to give you, you know, this is this version after this that took place before this because this happened at the time of this volume 6/5 line 7. It's like, what? so everyone likes that. And I'm like, that's cool too. I like it too. But they advertise this as a arcade genuine release. So this is everything. I will say something that have excited me though. My releases of New Generation and Second Impact for Dreamcast have just increased in value. Because you see, New Generation and Second Impact, for all you listeners out there, was never released for a home system except Dreamcast. Now, after all these years, they released this for the Switch, Xbox One, and PS4. That means the original Dreamcast release will now triple in price. Yes.
What a capitalist. I didn't take you for such a capitalist, Cookie.
I am a genuine collector of anime art. People connect with my peeps back from New York, and they'll let you know I'm a genuine archive collector of Japanese original products in the world of Japanese animation and video games.
Okay.
So I have some shit that never came to America and probably never will. But you know, and within the world of Capcom as well.
What do you know about that port? Actually, the New Gen and the Second Impact port to Dreamcast. Like it was created separately, right? Like, you know, like,
no, it was done on a single disc.
Okay.
Both the Japanese release and the American release was done on a single disc, and you get to choose if you want to play New Gen or Second Impact. And they did that to save money because the Dreamcast was released in 99 and it died in a year, just like Neo Geo Pocket Color died in a year. It was released in 99 and then that shit just said, you know, Game Boy Color pissed all over Neo Geo Pocket Color. That's a story for another time though. And it was released on a single disc. And I think they did that to save money because they were already struggling with sales for the Dreamcast. So they wanted to bring in the fighting crowd, you know, because they did so well with the sale of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You know, Psylocke was all on the front of that box cover. Yes, I'll never forget that. And so they wanted to capitalize on those sales with, here's New Gen and Second Impact. And guess what? Third Strike is going to come a year later for the Dreamcast. So...
Well, no, I just was wondering if you knew anything about the actual programming of the home version, like like
the parry timing was drastically different. It was not arcade perfect. Like the game was arcade perfect in every way on Dreamcast, with the exception for the parrying. So everything that I wanted to translate over from the actual arcade port to the Dreamcast port did not happen. And they actually doubled over, because that same mistake took place in the Third Strike release for Dreamcast. Same thing. Parry timing was not consistent with the arcade. And that this game is based upon all about that. So you'll be playing the home version on Dreamcast and going to arcade, and you'll be like, why the fuck am I getting hit? I parried. I'm getting fucked up for no reason. And you'd be like, oh, that's right. The timing is different on Dreamcast, so you had to split your mind in two to know that I'm playing the Dreamcast port, so it's this parry timing versus I'm in the actual arcade on the arcade CPS3 board. Now I can play for real.
I wonder why there were so many problems with the Dreamcast ports.
I don't know. And that was just the one inconsistency about the game, was just the parry. Everything else was perfect in every way. Dreamcast to this day is still a system that has zero loading. Man, Sega was on it. Like, it was cutting edge technology for the time, and it just got fucked over by PlayStation and that damn DVD drive. PlayStation 2. I mean, just stomped all over the Dreamcast, talking about, and I can play DVDs. Okay.
Oh, but Dreamcast was so sick. Yeah. Remember Nelly was playing it in one of his music videos?
Oh, yeah. I made it my duty.
I forgot that one video. I forgot the name of the video.
I made so that I have every fighting game Japanese release original for Dreamcast from Japan. Yeah. That is, I'm going to always have a special love for that system along with the Sega Saturn.
I'd imagine if they make a Dreamcast Mini. Or like a...
I don't know about that. More fans would be upset that they just didn't make a new console, because we've been waiting for a legacy console that Sega will come back and have it so that we can play Sega CD, Saturn, Dreamcast, Genesis, play everything on that system plus the new format for new games. That's a pipe dream right there. But as far as, because I know you wanted to go into 30th anniversary, as far as my gripe goes with that, my only mishap was when I had a big online argument on Facebook regarding the bibliography of Street Fighter 3. Regarding the bibliography of the timeline for the Street Fighter games and things related to Capcom. So when you go into the extras option, they give you the history of when the Street Fighter games were released. They never gave an honorable mention. I felt should have been an honorable mention for the Street Fighter EX series. Even though a lot of the characters were licensed by Eureka, it was still a partnership with Capcom. They worked together to make it happen. The 3D graphics and the music was all done by Eureka, but Capcom still had the licenses over their characters, and it worked in tandem, side by side with them, so that things could get represented properly. And that's a piece of history right there. And even though it wasn't a part of the physical collection to play the games, which is cool, they could have mentioned that Street Fighter EX, EX plus Alpha, EX2, and EX3 were released for home consoles at such and such year. They were omitted from the bibliography, and I got into like this big argument war on the 30th anniversary site on a friend's site on Facebook. And they mistaked it for me thinking that I wanted the game a part of the collection. It's like, no, I didn't want the game a part of the collection. I wanted it to be mentioned, because they went as far as to mention some Android cell phone Street Fighter game. And I'm like, but why would you talk about the Android game of Street Fighter, the Android game? Like, if you're going to mention an Android game, then you need to mention Card Clash Fighters for Neo Geo Pocket Color. Or you need to go and mention the first Street Fighter movie with Raul Julia and Ming Na Wen and Jean-Claude Van Damme. But they didn't mention that either. They jumped straight into the Legend of Chun-Li movie with a woman who's not even Chinese. And then last but not least, there's the Street. I'm sorry, now I'm really going off. there is the Street Fighter 2 animated movie game. Yes, the animated movie 2-disc game only released in Japan, was not released here in America. That wasn't mentioned, but they mentioned a bunch of other obscure shit that no one cared about. So I just had gripes with the historical bibliography. That's my only upset with the game. Everything else, I love.
I was always a fan of the Street Fighter movie game.
Now that I've said that.
I was always a fan of the movie game. I thought that was just because it dropped. You know how it dropped to time when Mortal Kombat was like the shit, right? And Capcom was like, "Yo, this is something we could do, right? We could do." Yeah, that didn't work out very well.
Man, that game was so. That game was so. It was so random. And you had characters like Swada.
Yeah.
Who the hell is Swada? He only showed up in like one scene at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like for 2 seconds.
Yeah. All right, so
funny as hell.
So for 30th anniversary, what do you think about not being able to play any of the, new gen or second impact online? Like, do you mind that, or
I'm not bothered by that at all, only because everyone, including myself, will want to play the definitive version. To be honest, as long as I've been playing Street Fighter 3 since '96, I most likely would have not even touched the online version. Because everything that I do with Elena in Third Strike couldn't happen in Second Impact and couldn't happen in New Gen because it didn't exist yet. However, I will say this. Alpha 2 should have been online. Alpha 2. Like, people all about... There's a long-standing war between Alpha 2 heads and Alpha 3 heads. I really am... I love Alpha 3, I do, but I love Alpha 2 more. It's stable. The combo system was boom, boom, boom. Like, it was stable. Everything connected, crisp, sharp. Every step of the way. Should have been Alpha 2 online.
All right. You heard it here, guys. Cookye endorses Alpha 2.
Now, I'm playing Alpha 3 online, but I have to play the shit differently because the combos connect the same but differently executed in Alpha 3 because the way the sprites connect on contact is not like Alpha 2. Yeah, very different.
Are you on that ranked Third Strike?
I haven't been playing online as much as I should. I'm ranking up there. I am ranking up there. When I get online, I play about a good 20, 30 sets, and I've been able to rack up 15, 20, 21 out of the 30. Every time I play. I haven't really lost like that in Third Strike. But I know I've been losing in Super 2 Turbo. See, that's a game you just can't fuck up in. You mess up one time, it's over. It's like an SNK game. It's like an SNK game. You mess up one time, it's over. Like, it's just, you might as well just watch the movie of your character getting fucked up because it's just it. That's just it. Dude, that's the fun thing about the game.
That's how I've been feeling about hyper fighting. And when you lose in hyper fighting, you just feel like shit. Because if you lost a game in hyper fighting, that just meant that you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like that you definitely did something wrong, when you lose a game in hyper fighting.
Yeah. And everyone's watching.
Right, no excuse. I know, right? Everyone's watching. No excuses.
and they will tell you after you already know what you did wrong. Then they will tell you again what you did wrong. Oh yes. Yeah.
Well, speaking of doing things wrong, actually, this I don't know if you I don't know how many of my previous podcasts you've watched, Cookye, but we're coming to a point of the show where it's time for me to go ahead and showcase some of the more unique examples of Third Strike gameplay online. This is a sort of a highlight reel of lowlights, if you will. It's kind of it's kind of like, I don't know if you follow basketball, or it's kind of like a Shacked and a Fool of Third Strike. It's around here we like to call it pack it up. And so basically what I do is I I scour the internet for clips of not so stellar Third Strike gameplay, and I have this,
Okay.
and I have the viewers vote, who they think is the best Pack It Up clip. And seeing as 30th anniversary dropped a couple weeks ago, one of the things that you'll notice, Cookye, is that a lot of more notable players from the FGC, more esports type personalities have been playing Third Strike, which is obviously really cool. But the Mutant XPerience doesn't discriminate, and so whoever fucks up, whether you're an unknown player or whether you're the best known player, I gotta be objective. Because Cookye, you might think that I run this segment just to get laughs, just to get a few cheap laughs. But in honesty, I this is a segment that I think is gonna do the Third Strike community a lot of good, because no one wants to be on Pack It Up. You don't want to be on Pack It Up. You don't want to be. You don't want that honor. So, So today we have a very special edition of Pack It Up. I'm going to call this the celebrity edition of Pack It Up, because we have some of the more well-known players in the fighting game community in this low light reel. So without further ado, guys, here's this week's edition of Pack It Up Esports Edition. So here's Pack It Up. All right, nominee number 1.
Okay.
This is Aris playing Goki, and what does he do after he sees a fireball get launched in the air? He jumps.
Into shoulder.
And so,
loudmouth Aris.
That's Aris. Nominee number 2. This is Chris G playing Ibuki, and wow, I don't know, Chris. Baited, I guess. Taunt, and then gets hit by the Mexican uppercut. Oh my goodness, Chris! You're slipping. Nominee number 3.
That was some Mortal Kombat 2 right there. That was Mortal Kombat 2.
Everyone's favorite Third Strike channel, Pikachu Akuma, gets hit by this beginning of the round ground and pound. That move is so slow. Like, how do you not block that move?
And it came from the other side of the screen too.
Nominee number
he tried to counter it.
Yeah. Nominee number 4, DSP, playing Third Strike and getting really bodied by this Necro player. All he had to do was block at any point in that.
Ooh.
And
he got perfect hit?
And this is a tournament. Chun-Li is using Amir and Arlieth Makoto. And this is a godlike read. No, first of all, he gets snuffed. Then look at this read by Arlieth. He catches the backdash.
Wow.
Oh man.
And so foot stop Hayoku-sen clean.
Whew. So pick your favorite guys, who you think should win the honor of being Pack It Up champion for this week.
I like how you put this reel together. This is cool.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. So I don't know. I always chuckle with the Chris G one.
I would go with number 5 because he just literally got beat down. That Makoto, that took a good read because not everybody knows you can stop Hayoku-sen by putting out a medium hit, and that was medium foot right there. Foot just stopped her dash in place,
and then the godlike read for the backdash. Whew.
Yeah, like it's like I'm going to follow you. You won't be able to run away. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, the shot on block was funny too. All right.
Yeah, that showed that he got into his head. I would say, you know what, in terms of, I guess, emotions, I would go with the Chris G one first and then the Makoto Chun-Li second.
Well, speaking of like managing emotions and stuff, like I wanted to ask, because Cookye, you go to a lot of tournaments, and so I was wondering, do you have like kind of like a routine, or are there things that that you do that help you sort of get centered for your match? And
I don't practice before the game. I will practice all the way up into it, but the day of the game itself, I won't play it at all because the last thing you want to do is overthink. You don't want to overthink, and you want to remember to have fun. I have my music with me. I'm playing the music from the game in my ear because, I have it in my MP3 player.
That's sick.
And I become one with the scenery from the game instead of playing it. And I watch other people. I watch them play because when they watch you play, they're picking up everything you're doing. You don't want that. That's a mistake. You can watch them, but you don't want them to watch you. Especially during tournament day. That's when people tend to pick up the last minute stuff real good. Because they may catch something they didn't catch before, and you try that shit and it just backfired and did not work. So that's something I'm careful of when I'm at a tournament. I noticed that my emotions run a little differently by game. When there are games that I've been playing for a long time, then I don't have to think about, then I'm going into a regular arcade to have fun. And then it's like it's not a tournament at all. That being Third Strike, Alpha 2, CVS. Well, not really. CVS 2, yes and no. But really Alpha 2, MK2, Children of the Atom, War of the Gems. Games that I know that I play on that level. That level like that. And a lot of the games that I play on that level are no longer recognized. Nobody plays them anymore. But I'm lucky that Third Strike is still one of those games, and so is Alpha 2. Same thing with EX2. There are people that still play EX1, EX2. And in those circles, I don't have to think when I'm in a tournament for that. I don't have to think, I just do. But for the newer games, I still get nervous just like anyone else because it's different. It hasn't been around to a point where you don't have to think anymore. So, unless it's a legacy game like Tekken, I don't have to think. But Tekken 7, I'm not playing right now because I don't see Anna. I play with Anna Williams. Been playing with her since Tekken 1. So,
yeah. So I'm gonna put you on the spot right now, Cookie.
Yeah, sure.
Third Strike. Greatest Street Fighter of all time?
Yes. Of all time, in terms of Street Fighter games? Yes.
Why?
Yes. It's the most fair.
What do you mean
it's
by
the
that?
most fair.
What do you mean by that?
Street Fighter 3 was created to evolve the current combat system that was in Street Fighter 2 series. They wanted to give competitors a chance to be able to truly experience the art of self-defense. And so when they created the parry system, that's what that was for. It was created with the competitive player spirit in mind, that you would take over all of your skills. You will move all of your skills from the Street Fighter 2 and 0 games to the Street Fighter 3 series, but now add this new element, which now will change the course of gameplay so that now, even if it looks like things look grim for you, you have a chance, because if you knew how to parry, you can change the outcome of the match based upon how much of a martial arts mindset you have. Because this is truly a chess match. This is mind versus another mind. And they created a true chess match of a martial arts game when they did that. When they made the Street Fighter 3 series overall. And Third Strike is like the perfection of all of that. Being able to red parry, being able to parry, being able to safe fall, backdash, forward dash. There's a lot going on. Overheads, crouching moves, footsies. There's every element in the game that you can think of out of a 2D fighter, for each element being perfected. And that if that wasn't good enough, the animations of the characters and the frames, look like they have really taken a step in evolution, a step further. And so if I had to choose one game out of every Street Fighter game that I would love, that I knew that can give somebody a competitive chance if they really learned how to play it well, it's Street Fighter Third Strike. No more can you die from block damage. No more can you, go through the inconveniences of block stun. Block stun doesn't exist like that in Third Strike because of the parry system stops that. It's fair. And I think that's why they haven't made a true sequel to Street Fighter 3 because, we're living in times where fighting martial arts based games is catered to people that don't know how to play competitively. They want to be able to capture everybody, not just people that play on a high level. That's why things are so simple now. That's why you see everyone being upset with Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 4 for quite some time because of the simplicity of everything, Yeah. And one thing I want to point out there is Street Fighter 3 is one of the last games that didn't have the concept of plus and minus moves. You missed that attack. And because you missed, in real life, like martial arts, you're open. That means I get to punish you because you was not thinking right. And here it is. Here's the result of your lack of thinking. Whether in new games, you can miss and you wasn't thinking and you have a chance because the move that you threw out, even though you missed and they blocked it, put your character in these plus frames, which prohibited the other character from reacting on a move that you missed. Makes no sense. So.
I wanted to point out something
and yes, it is a spiritual battle. Thank you. What is his name? XD the Hunter X? Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
XD the Hunter X? That's right. Yes, it is a spiritual battle. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. It's cosmic on the most highest level of fighting games and within the world of Capcom. Because I could put other games on that level, but we're gonna stick to Capcom.
Another thing that XD the Hunter X said, he says that Third Strike has no tier list.
Yes, I agree.
Like,
I agree.
I can see how that makes sense, right? Because, like, if you took the perfect fighting game player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had him play against himself with every character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there would be no tier list, right?
No, there wouldn't.
If that's how you would construct a tier list, right? Because of the parry system.
Mm-hmm. Street Fighter 3 was made in mind to even the playing field. That's what it was for. And it caught on during the highlight of when it came out, and it caught on for such a long time. And of course, when all the fireworks fizzled, 15 years later, people are still playing the game. And these newer games come in. All of the newer cats and the new gen of players and tournament goers, they can't jive to this old game because now they gotta fucking think. Right. All that shit you was doing in 4 and 5 will not work in 3.
Yeah. I want to address something that Fighter's Destiny says in the chat. I think I agree, Fighter's Destiny, that certain characters have more tools than others, but at the same time, like you can argue, there's a tier list if you base it on, how much work you have to put in to learning the character. But even that's relative, right? Because like not everyone learns at the same rate. So I
want to answer the question to was it is that Pedraza 08 Pedraza 08?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, in the beginning when Chun-Li was a new addition to Third Strike, she was banned for a brief time. She's top tier because of her super. Man, everyone's super takes a considerable amount of damage. Everybody's super in the game. But the execution of it is what made her top tier. Where you can execute Hyoku-sen level 2 super from almost any mid-range or light attack that she has. And the most famous one is crouching medium kick Hyoku-sen. Then you have other ones that are a little bit more
difficult. Right?
Difficult, I wouldn't say the word, is a little bit more lucrative, I would say. Walls of China, I'm so old school. Back Fierce,
Walls of China.
Walls of China palm super. Or you could do Walls of China cancel Kikoken super. Or back medium pimp slap super, pimp slap cancel Kikoken cancel super. down heavy fist cancel super. This bitch has so many options. I can see why they'd be like, "Ooh, she's top tier because all I need to catch you one time with just Pap Super." It's like, wait a minute. It's like, what? Why does she have so many connections? You know, I get it. Same thing, just like Elena. But Elena doesn't have that many connections. She only has like crouching medium punch or crouching medium kick super, or standing medium punch. But you have to know how to cancel that shit right. You got to do it right, otherwise you fuck up. You're open. You know, cancel right into Brave Dance or Spinning Beat. You know, so I get it. Some people have just a little bit more easier time than others because they have some more options. You know, one thing I'd like for them to explain about Chun-Li is her up close medium kick. If you hold the medium kick, she does an axe kick and it comes down twice and it's a 3-hit. How come that doesn't connect to anything? And she goes kick, 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 and it's 3 hits. It's literally a 3-hit combo, but it doesn't connect to nothing. It's useless.
Yeah, I almost forgot that she had that normal.
I use everything. When I play with Chun-Li, I use everything. Probably one of the few people that use Super R3, Angel Slam, Tensei Ranka, and also Kikosho. My God, that's overpowered too. Unless tab it overpowered. Like, man, that's a 20, 22, 23 hit parry. Ooh, and it's a variable parry too, so it changes times. Damn.
Do you remember that one Chinese player who used SA1 Chun? He always had like a plastic bag on his arm, or you remember that guy? He was godlike. He would never jump at you. Like,
because he knew. He just knew.
Like, all he did was just build meter and just wait for him to jump at you and wait for you to jump at him, and then he'd have that SA1 ready. And like, I'm all thinking, like, how are you having fun? Just this is all you're doing.
I'm sorry, I was reading the comments.
Sorry.
Yeah, Chun-Li. Oh God, let me do it right because my degree is in Chinese studies. So to give respect to my degree, Chun-Li's name is really Chun-Li with the right tones. Chun-Li. You know, spring power or spring beauty, depending on how you write the kanji of her name. Yes, she's an asshole. You know, she is, my God. You know, and so, but with Elena, man, I've gotten caught with the super and did back fierce kick with Elena, and the overhead R kick stops Hyoku-sen. I mean, the foot comes right on her head, boom, just like that. Stop the super. Stops wake ups. If you do it right, it will stop EX bird kick. Wake up EX bird kick. Back fist with Elena will stop. Wake up EX bird kick. Stop spinning, bitch. Stop spinning.
Wow, I gotta test that. I gotta test that in training mode. You know.
Yeah.
I gotta check out. I gotta check out that tutorial. Are there any other? Go ahead. I was just asking.
These are moments that people caught me in the arcade when I actually did this stuff, and it was like, "Wait, it works." I'm like, I got hit with enough time to know the counter.
Yeah. Speaking of the arcade, I mean, are there any other players from the CF days that you remember, like guys that stuck out in your mind, just like from CF?
Yes, notable third strike players. Outside of Helgen X, I want to give a shout out to Carlos Singleton, who's an excellent player in every fighting game. He's what I call a person who breaks fighting games. He breaks it so to its finite that he's creating shit that's not supposed to exist. He created infinites that you thought never existed in X-Men versus Street Fighter. But anyway, he plays third strike and he's good. You know, another guy named Denzel. Shout out to Denzel.
Oh, D-Tech.
He's caught on to Mother Africa pretty well. You know, the match can go either way between him and I. You know, it's just all about whose mind is clearer. That's all it comes down to, because he can be a pain sometimes, but he's good. He's good. Helgen X. Did I mention Helgen X?
Yeah, you mentioned Helgen.
I did him. Carlos, Chris Kid Beast. I want to mention him. Quasi was good. So was Derek. Yeah, Quasi. Man, Quasi. He was good in that and CVS2, man. CVS2 is fucking Blanca, man, was annoying. God, fucking Blanca, man. Blanca. God damn him. Electricity all day. Who else? I'm trying to make sure I mention people. This Chinese dude, but I can't think of his name. He was from the Bronx, but he went down to CF all the time, and man, he was good as well. This other Puerto Rican dude too.
Are you talking about Denges? Anson? The Ryu player?
He was actually a Yin and Yang player.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yes. So,
so
but
many.
everyone that I basically played in Third Strike, they were good. But those are the notable names that I can mention off the top of my head right now that were good and are still good and are still, keyword, still good.
Oh yeah.
No, Derek Rutter, I want to put his name out there. Also OJ, God knows where he's at. You know, and a female, Q. I gotta mention Quadira. We called her Q. She was one of the few female players that knew how to play Street Fighter 3 and also played Marvel. She got fucked up in Canada though, but she played a good set. So,
well, that's about all the time that we got for tonight's Mutant XPerience podcast. But before we go, any last words of wisdom for people who are just embarking on this journey of Street Fighter?
Yeah, I had already said this long time ago, but like it is in the FGC, and unless you're winning tournaments, it seems like the wisdom that you have to pass down to people never really sees the light of day. So I'm gonna, I guess, quote myself, which was quoted by Daigo, to re-quote myself again, if that's making any sense.
Okay.
Daigo says it is important. I say it is not as important, but I said it before him. To remain important in any video game, you must continue to play the games that are no longer important. To remain good, you must continue to play the games that are no longer important, which explains why all the Japanese arcades in Japan still have all of the CPS 1, 2, and 3 games lined up back to back, all the SNK games from as far as Garo Densetsu to Art of Fighting to Kizuna Encounter, even the games that are not important, are still present and loved and played and never forgotten. It's like museum. They're now active museums. They're like active museums.
It's kind of what 30th anniversary is, I guess.
Well, I hope it brings a reemergence of people in. I'm not really feeling the tour that they're doing because the tour is only representing one game in one area. Alpha 3 is going to be in SoCal, and Third Strike's going to be a Canada Cup, and then I forgot where Alpha.
ST.
I forgot what ST is.
ST is going to be at CEO.
As CEO. Okay, so I'll be there to see that. I think that all 3 games should be in all 3 locations.
Yeah, but maybe Capcom doesn't have that kind of dough.
And quite honestly, I don't want to go to Canada for Third Strike. Now, if somebody wants to pay for my ticket to Canada, well then, yeah, I'll go.
Well, send those proposals to Cookie's Twitter. All right, Cookie. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. This was really great. Any last things you want to?
I do. For anyone out there who is going to attend CEO Gaming Fighting Game Championship in Florida at the end of this month, I will be there. I will be a host for the game show called On the Facts. On the Facts is my fighting game martial arts trivia gaming panel. I'm giving away $1,000. It's basically shaped like a Jeopardy game. And my secretary, who's been active on the comments here, will be there with me to help select contestants from the audience. Basically, if you're selected, you get to go through questions Jeopardy style with other contenders about questions that deal with the lore of fighting games, fighting game mechanics, people in the FGC. And first player gets $500, second player gets $250, and last player gets $50. And then audience members that participate that get an answer correct will get $5 in their hand. So Everybody has opportunity to get money, and it's cash on the spot. So you're not waiting for PayPal. You're not waiting for a motherfucking check. You're getting your money in your hand once the game show ends for whoever wins. And so I'm hoping that my game show will blow up, and I'm looking for people to Twitter it out because I'm putting things out. So yes.
Yes, and again, once again, you can follow Cookye at Fusungsi. Right.
Yes.
Great. So once again, thanks Cookye for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Once again, guys, you've been watching the Mutant XPerience podcast, and next week on the show, we're gonna have another Chinatown Fair veteran by the name of Everdread, a very long-renowned Remy player. And so that's what's on tap for next week's show. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys on 3S After Dark next Monday. See you guys later.
Thank you.